PESNet+, s'inscrit donc dans le cadre du programme européen Horizon 2020 qui est dédié à la recherche et l'innovation. Et sur son volet relations internationales, il est clair que son objectif central concerne les relations en termes de production scientifique. Comme l'Horizon 2020 l'indique, sont identifiés des défis sociétaux. Le premier concerne la santé, le deuxième concerne les ressources alimentaires, notamment agricoles et marines, et le troisième concerne les aspects liés à l'environnement, au climat et aux matières premières. Nous sommes 16 partenaires pour animer ce projet, partenaires de l'Europe et partenaires de la région Pacifique. Certains États de la région y sont présents au travers de leurs organismes, des organismes régionaux, coordinateurs d'action régionale sont présents aussi. Au niveau européen, des partenaires de différents pays et des organisations multinationales de différents secteurs contribuent à ce programme au travers de ces actions. Et la coordination en fait s'effectue très concrètement au travers des ateliers, au travers des documents de synthèse, au travers des plateformes bi-régionales, des financements qu'on appelle le seed funding, donc des financements d'amorçage. Toutes ces actions sont menées conjointement.
Our aim is really to foster the collaboration between the research side, the universities, the industry and the international organizations like the European Commission, the World Bank, the Inter-American Development Bank.
I also found the building of networks, the consolidation of existing networks and building new networks to be really important too. And I think that was nice having those different parties, having environmental scientists and hardcore scientists, chemists and the like, and social scientists talking about the same sorts of issues. I think it's really important, and finding the ways to make that happen is it seems to have happened quite well here. And if we can do that, if we're looking at saving the world one way or the other, that's the sort of collaboration that needs to be pushed forward.
Cette voie du Pacifique est très consciente du fait que nous sommes de petites îles, des microcosmes. Nous avons une difficulté en termes d'acquisition de données, mais également en termes de ressources humaines, de capacity building. Et nous avons besoin de cette coopération, mais en étant aussi convaincus que nous pouvons apporter beaucoup à l'Europe. Aujourd'hui, nous parlons beaucoup de changement climatique. Nous voyons que ça réorganise la carte au niveau mondial. Nous avons des maladies qui précédemment étaient purement tropicales et subtropicales, donc qui n'intéressaient qu'une petite population. Aujourd'hui, ces maladies gagnent l'Europe. Et donc, à ce niveau-là, nous avons cette capacité localement de pouvoir collaborer, de pouvoir apporter également nos connaissances. Mais nous avons besoin pour cela d'être beaucoup plus efficaces dans notre partenariat et surtout d'adresser ensemble les questions qui concernent nos sociétés.
As an Australian, as an Indigenous person from Australia, there's much that we can share with the Pacific Islands, and I think this is the start of a conversation. It's not just about dialogue, it's about dialogic action.
The Pacific has very strong traditional knowledge in a number of areas in terms of food security and weather patterns and threats to ecosystems. So the EU can benefit from that traditional knowledge that our people hold, and concurrently we can work with the EU to find that research and get those innovative solutions that we need for the Pacific region. It's a great partnership.
So, when we talk about health, how do we really define health? Yeah, if you look at the WHO Constitution back in the 48, health is the state of complete physical, mental and social well-being, and it's not only the absence of disease, it's the well-being part. That's the global definition, if you like, the WHO global definition. The Pacific health ministers took it a step further, and back in 95 they came up with the another declaration on healthy islands, where they talked about healthy islands from a very comprehensive and overarching perspective, more like a vision rather than a specific outcome. So the ministers came up with the definition as healthy islands are places where children are nurtured in body and mind, where the environment invites for learning and leisure, where people work and age with dignity, and where the ecological balance is a source of pride, and where the ocean which sustains us is protected.
Le Pacifique est une forme d'observatoire avancé en ce qui concerne l'étude et la connaissance des maladies infectieuses. L'Europe a tout intérêt à avoir un regard attentif sur ce qui se passe dans le Pacifique, puisque ça lui permet d'améliorer sa connaissance fondamentale, ça lui permettrait d'anticiper des menaces, car il faut être clair, on l'a vu, le village global, ce qui se passe dans le Pacifique, un jour ou l'autre, se passera dans la zone européenne. On le voit sur les maladies infectieuses, c'est le cas, on le verra également pour la ciguatera.
And we have not explored much in the Pacific. Still, there is a big potential. We do a lot of science and technology, but appropriate technology, appropriate innovation is something that is missing, because what is our comparative advantage in the Pacific countries and how we can become sustainable in the world? That is an important issue that is missing. And we are focusing on something which is trivial to some extent, and we are not focusing enough on such issues which are highly pertinent. They can grow, they can bring development to the Pacific, and they can be sustainable, so that we have got comparative advantage in this changing world, and that is very, very important.
Traditional knowledge practices in controlling, so everything we do, the Pacific people have some traditional ways of doing it, which can better inform our science and provide more solutions and opportunities for innovation that responds to social and economic.
Les institutions européennes, les organisations européennes, les centres de recherche européens ont des savoir-faire, ont des niveaux d'expertise qu'on n'a pas toujours dans le Pacifique. Et là aussi, ça peut bénéficier, ça peut aider à améliorer le niveau de connaissance dans le Pacifique, au niveau de nos chercheurs, de nos équipes de recherche, des populations, et ça ne peut être qu'une valeur ajoutée pour le Pacifique.
And just on behalf of the think tank team, I want to thank the EC for creating the opportunity to network, to exchange ideas, to exchange experience. That's been absolutely invaluable, and we really do appreciate the support of the EC in doing that. Have a look at the Pacific. It's not 15% of the globe, it's nearly a third of the globe. Very large, it's vast. So what I want you to get your idea of how vast it is. We've talked about how important it is in terms of fisheries, in terms of biodiversity, in terms of mineral resources. What I want to say is how important it is in terms of heat and mass transfer, the global heat and mass transfer. This is the great engine of global heat and mass transfer. The region is incredibly diverse. We've talked about the social, the cultural, the geographic diversity. So, what did we do in the think tank? We explored several themes, the knowledge necessary to develop community resilience. And I want to say something about community resilience. You know, over the last 12,000 years, people in the Pacific have proved themselves remarkably resilient to major things, earthquakes, volcanic eruptions, tsunamis. But the challenges that they face now are of a different character, and they are not well adapted to them.
Il s'agit donc d'identifier des moyens innovants, en tout cas pour la région Pacifique, donc plus ou moins innovants, qui peuvent être parfois des adaptations, pour faire en sorte que ces exploitations minières puissent être menées d'une façon à favoriser le développement harmonieux des pays qui accueillent ces exploitations, et donc qui rééquilibre un petit peu le coût environnemental et social de ces exploitations minières et les bénéfices économiques.
Ce qu'il y a de nouveau pour moi dans ce PaceNet, c'est que bien sûr on a créé du réseau, on rencontre des scientifiques de toutes les disciplines et de tous les pays autour. Mais en plus là, on a eu des ateliers spécifiques dans mon domaine, c'est-à-dire les géosciences et les ressources minérales. Il n'y a pas beaucoup de programmes qui tiennent compte de ce domaine-là, les ressources minérales. Donc c'était nouveau. Et concrètement, dans ces ateliers, on est allé définir des objectifs et à faire des ébauches de projets.
often when we're talking about mining and the environment, there's very negative connotations put on those activities, and to see what some of the South Pacific communities are doing, particularly Cook Island, in preparation for deep sea mining is really encouraging, and it gives me hope that we can make that transition into some of those challenging environments while protecting our environment and making sure we've got community buy-in and communities benefit from those activities.
Donc la région du Pacifique Sud-Ouest est caractérisée par, du point de vue climatique et océanographique, ce qu'on appelle la zone de convergence du Pacifique Sud, qui influe fortement le climat régional et même le mondial, puisque c'est l'évolution de la zone de convergence du Pacifique Sud qui déclenche ou pas les phénomènes El Niño et El Niña, qui ont des conséquences importantes à l'échelle du bassin pacifique. Deuxième point important de la région, c'est que la région est caractérisée par une très très forte sismicité et volcanisme, dû à des vitesses relatives entre les plaques très rapides, les plus rapides au monde. Tout cela, des îles reculées, forte démographie, et qui ont besoin de ressources donc pour vivre. Et donc les variations, enfin les changements naturels et anthropiques sur ces îles ont des impacts importants. Donc d'où la nécessité d'avoir des observatoires sur le long terme pour appréhender ces phénomènes et les impacts sur la population.
I think the methodology that PaceNet's using is really innovative, and I think it's a real challenge to bring people together from across disciplines, and I've been really impressed with the methodology. It works you really hard. It's long days and you get really tired, and you work really hard. But to be able to bring a group of people together who don't know each other from different parts of the world, and at the end of 7 hours to actually be presenting ideas and outcomes is pretty impressive.
Why do we need seed funding? We're talking a lot about cooperation, we have got our think tanks, but we also want to enable and encourage Pacific and European researchers to network and to bring their ideas in practice, filling scientific gaps and also implementing joint activities. For this, we have got 5% of our whole budget. That means we have got 150,000 euros just for our seed funding projects. And this is very interesting, I think. This is the list of all the applicants, co-applicants we have. And you see that we have from Australia to Sweden, to Switzerland, to Austria, to Cook Island, to the Netherlands. We have got plenty of applicants who are interested to work about the South Pacific, to work with the South Pacific.
Perhaps the most important finding is that the region is very heterogeneous, extremely heterogeneous. There are some countries that have a more advanced innovation system. In these cases, you find that there is significant investment in R&D, enterprises engage in innovation. There's plenty of interest in innovation, and there is good public-private partnerships and interaction pursuing innovation. The government is heavily involved in innovation and supports innovation in the region. As a result, you can see that they have incubators and all the instruments that you would see in some of the most advanced countries. There is, on the other hand, some less advanced innovation systems. However, we have identified some areas for potential, particularly in the agricultural sector. And we found, for example, potential for banana and taro value addition. We found potential, for example, also for coconut cosmetics. And there are a number of agricultural products where we see lots of future.
Avec des résultats aussi qu'on a obtenus grâce à PaceNet Plus sur l'innovation qui va ensuite nous aider. Donc voilà un des apports, parce qu'on se situe bien dans cette espèce de cycle du projet où il y avait recherche, technologie, innovation, et comment ça va nourrir ensuite les axes, ça va influencer, ça va même diriger des axes de développement, et ceci en discussion entre le Pacifique et l'Union européenne. Donc je pense que ça répond vraiment à ça. Donc on est en train de développer plusieurs axes, notamment dans le secteur des pêches ou d'autres, qui, qu'on espère, vont ensuite faire partie de la programmation développement du 11e FED.
So through the Pacific Islands University Research Network, the opportunity to meet as scientists, as researchers, is available. And that is for us academicians, for us researchers in the Pacific region, that is a great advantage to have this platform, to have the opportunity to meet as scientists. And bi-régional is an output, is a product of BaseNet. And through this network, for the first time ever, we scientists now working together to solve regional problems.
That if we think about all the challenges that we face, virtually all of them have a scientific component to decisions that policymakers have to make. And what we've seen over the last decade, 2 decades, is an increased recognition that science has a particular place to play in the policy process. Science does not make policy. Clearly, we all understand that decisions made at national levels involve diplomatic, fiscal, public opinion, political considerations, which in the end are the large determinants of what makes for deciding on the various trade-offs that are involved in policy formation. But what science does is play a particularly privileged role in defining what we know and what we don't know, and providing that information to the policymaker in a way that they can use that to inform the trade-offs they make. Having said that, scientists, just by their nature, are not necessarily well equipped to interface well with the policy process, there's a need to develop scientists who have the capacities to bridge that gap, and equally the need to create the demand to understand within the policy community what science can offer.
We're talking about a fairly complex relationship here. You're talking about essentially a region-to-region relationship in science and technology and innovation, and that has many dimensions to it, and one has to always take into account all the perspectives and all the dimensions. I mean, there's the dimension of the scientific cooperation itself and the individual partnerships, and that's always a relatively easy discussion because scientists are very focused individuals, they know exactly what they want to do, they get their money and they do the work. But there are many other dimensions to this relationship, I mean, and not least the political dimension, and that is notoriously a slow and long-running process. And so PaceNet's role is not just in promoting scientific discussion, which would be very straightforward, but in encouraging that political relationship between the two regions, which has a role in reinforcing the landscape within which science operates. And as I say, that's quite a big task. It requires a lot of understanding amongst the actors who are responsible for making the right decisions and then convincing them to come to the table. And there are so many dimensions that I think that begins to explain why this is a long-term process.
Whatever is discussed in our bilateral or regional cooperation in energy, climate change, disaster risk reduction or disaster risk management, and so on, takes account of their input. We try to be as inclusive as possible, involving civil society and the private sector in our discussion with the governments. But at one point, it all comes up to lobbying your governments so that your point of view is taken into consideration. At that point, of course, in the concrete projects that will come out and will be funded, there will be, and I believe there must be, a component of science and technology, and definitely of innovation.
My plea to you, as I did now in other conferences, is to make your voice heard wherever you can through all your national delegates when they go to Paris and we'll talk about climate change, and they do not forget how important for the whole climate change agenda the oceans are. So I have already started to do this in my capacity here in the European Commission by talking to the colleagues who will represent the European Commission. But I give this back to you, to every one of you, to take that collective responsibility, because I think there's a lot to be said we have to convince the terrestrial people. And since I work in the marine environment, I make a distinction between 90% of terrestrial people, because we continue, at least in Europe, to talk about planet Earth. You might talk in your part of the world about planet Ocean. We don't. So I think to learn as well from you and to hear from you how certain things could be brought forward for policy making, this is very important. But if you have anything which I should take home to my own colleagues, because we have ongoing discussions, we have to listen to what is going on outside Europe, as I said. It is extremely important for us, both for policy making. We need to be well informed, and we need scientific evidence, as was raised just when I came in. And secondly, whatever we want to strategically develop for the future needs also take into account developments which are outside of Europe. Thank you.
Net+, comme vous le savez, va s'arrêter en 2016 et tout le monde souhaite que ces actions soient prolongées. Parmi les choses importantes qui ont été faites, plusieurs sont stratégiques pour le futur et méritent d'être soulignées. En premier lieu, le seed funding que nous avons amorcé, c'est un jeu de mots, il est important d'être prolongé à une échelle plus grande parce qu'il contribue à ces réseaux de coopération scientifique. La relation bi-régionale entre l'Europe et la région Pacifique est cruciale et elle doit être prolongée au-delà des plateformes bi-régionales, et une coordination des petits pays, tant au niveau national que régional, de leur stratégie est sans doute un excellent outil pour pérenniser cette relation qui pourrait être annuelle ou biannuelle avec une structure équivalente au niveau européen. Et bien sûr, d'un point de vue plus thématique, les systèmes d'observation du changement climatique dans la région Pacifique sont à intensifier, région dont l'importance est reconnue sur le plan du climat mondial, et région qui mérite d'avoir des outils plus performants pour l'observation de son propre climat.
L'Europe, dans son positionnement, je dirais, scientifique, parmi d'autres positionnements dans la région Pacifique, a proposé à l'IRD de devenir un collaborateur premier, je dirais, en proposant à l'IRD de coordonner la plateforme PESNet. Et je dirais que ce choix est pertinent, parce que l'IRD a une particularité unique aujourd'hui, tant en France qu'en Europe. C'est le seul établissement de recherche publique interdisciplinaire dont toutes les missions sont centrées sur les pays du Sud. Donc au niveau, je dirais, de cette spécificité, au niveau de cet historique, écoutez, regardez, ici dans le Pacifique, l'IRD est présent depuis 50 ans en Polynésie, depuis plus de 70 ans en Nouvelle-Calédonie.
PACENet, we've been able to, for example, be a member of the pi-earn, which is, I believe, the funding, the initial funding came from members of the PACENet, and this for us is very valuable because not only is it providing a regional network of island universities, but what it means for us to have a regional research agenda, to have a network so that we can then do a lot of collaboration at the regional level. We can share information, we can share the expertise, which right now is, as I've said earlier on, is something that we need to grow within our university. So it's been a very valuable experience for us and a very rewarding experience.
PACENet brought us together, brought the two regions together, and we sort of found out that there has been more dialogue happening in the last few years. One very good evidence of that is the number of proposals our university has submitted for the seed funding. We have never had like anything more than one or two, but this time around we had 9 proposals from our faculty itself, which shows that the networking is growing, and we have more confidence in liaising with our European partners. Yes, it was very interesting because we had all come together at a place after our invitation, and I found out after the meeting, we sat down to have some coffee, I think it was coffee, and you could see two groups of people at two ends of the table. So you had the Pacific group here, and you had the European group here, and there was hardly any talk between them. But, they were having their own groups and own discussions. So that's how it started, and it was interesting because after one or two meetings, and you could slowly see them getting together and having discussions. And now what we see is that we don't see that sort of separate groups. And whenever people meet now, you see them having their own fun, and they forget about their own Pacific brothers or their European friends. They have their own small groups now, which is really quite amazing.